Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. So thank you so much, Dr. Stella, for joining us today. And it's a pleasure to have you with us. So first of all, a lot of congratulations to you for winning that award. How did it feel when you first heard the news? And more importantly, what does that award mean to you personally as well as professionally?
Well, thank you. Thank you for the kind words, and thank you for reminding me the award. It feels a thing in the past now, and I can certainly recall from the day and the announcement the joy, not really for myself, but for my students,
Mhm.
because this is the result of an effort of a collaborating effort that we started with my students as part of my energy economics class. So it felt really nice to show to my students that we can start something from zero, from scratch, with no support, and still make it something that is impactful and important at the European level. So it felt very, very nice indeed.
What does it mean to you personally? That was the professional part.
Uh, Personally, I think it's a small milestone reached. Professionally, it definitely gives a lot of enthusiasm and courage and power to continue working with my students and to continue believing in ideas that even at first seem, not very important or not powerful enough.
Yeah.
And just to realize that this is, just an obstacle that sometimes we put on ourselves, and we really shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah. So today our topic, is the economics of just transition, and I'll just dive deep in it now. So you know that the concept of just transition, it talks about the shift towards like an equitable shift towards a low carbon economy. But we know that for emerging economies and developing economies, it's very tough to make that shift, let alone make it equitable. So, in your opinion, what are some of the top two or three most pressing economic challenges in translating this just transition principle into actionable policies? Considering factors like resource dependence and debt burdens and lack of technological access.
Thank you. In my view, the main challenges and the main burdens are probably related to the economic system as it has been developed for developing and developed countries alike. So if I had to choose two, three important factors, that would be high dependence on conventional fuels or resource-intensive sectors that has been the engine of growth for many economies now. The second would be limited access to affordable technologies and finance obstacles that many developing countries may be faced with. So basically, being able to reach to this technological innovation that is taking place, and also being able to pay for this technological innovation, and also for the new technological tools that are at reach now. And the third that is particularly important, I think, for developing regions is the debt burden that sometimes they have to bear, and especially the fiscal stance that they
Yes.
are at, which leaves them with little fiscal space to maneuver or to prioritize clean technology investments or decarbonization of their economies.
So we have talked about the challenges. So let's assume that the developing and emerging economies do overcome these challenges. What are some of the economic opportunities that a just energy transition could unlock for the developing and emerging economies? And is this promise being realized, or is showing like is it being prioritized anywhere currently?
Okay, I think this is a very opportune time in the economic history for the developing nations and economies to really catch up in a sense. And let me explain this. Now it's a very good opportunity for them under a well-managed just transition to unlock all the transformative economic opportunities that they may be faced with. And these may have to do with green industrialization or job creation in new sectors that are now new and developing, and first time appearing not only for developing economies but for developed likewise. So maybe it's a very good time to close this gap. The second has to do with the strengthened energy security and the reduced reliance of these developing economies that may be pushed forward even further or even more dynamically and under a just energy transition policy set. There are some very good examples worldwide. For instance, here in the Mediterranean region, we have the case of Morocco that is investing heavily in solar. In large-scale solar projects, or we have Vietnam that is very active in terms of investing in renewable energy technologies. We have countries like Costa Rica that have been showing the way for a while now on what is the importance of nature or biodiversity to sustain the economy. So I think there are some examples. Of course, these examples also show at the same time the challenges that developing economies are faced with. But if we think of this transformation, this global transformation, as a very good opportunity to close the gap and just restart the process, the growth process from a new standing point, then yes, I can see some very good opportunities here for developing countries as well.
So in all of this discussion of the just energy transition and all of the like when we talk about renewable energy, we always talk about climate finance. So and it's cited as crucial and indispensable for a just transition. So in your opinion, what are some of the effective mechanisms that the international financial institutions and developed nations, particularly the global north, can undertake and support the developing countries, the global south, in adopting a more climate, like in terms of more climate resilient economy, keeping in mind that it does not exacerbate existing inequalities in those economies?
Thank you. I think when we talk about finance, we need to recall the importance of accessibility, of predictability, and equal access, especially when we talk about just transition. So definitely in this energy transition process, we need to develop all those financial mechanisms or approaches or institutions that can offer predictability, can lower the risk, and also can offer equal access to capital. So it seems that for this just energy transition, we need now new forms of finance, concessional finance, targeted grants, debt relief approaches that bring together in the same table those that are in need of capital and financing, and also those that are sitting on this accumulated capital. Blended finance that can reduce especially private risk, as we see it in investments in green or new technologies or sustainability. Transition could be a very good alternative, or at least supportive in the energy transition process of the developing countries. And of course, now we need to consider the importance to transfer financial flows and capital to not just to skilling people, to upskilling people, to reskilling people, to ensuring social protection, to making sure that communities are included in the projects and somehow lead these projects, so as in the end of the day to have these projects being fully accepted by the end users and the local communities.
Do you think that it's possible to do all of that, given that the debt burdens in the global south economies is increasing? Like, if I talk about particular countries in South Asia, like Pakistan, where I'm from, we are reliant on IMF bailout packages, and our country is just running on it year after year after year. Do you think a country like this, and many other in Africa also, can actually even, I would say, think of and shifting towards a low carbon economy and decarbonization, because these sound like buzzwords when there's widespread poverty in the country and the burdens are increasing and the fiscal space, as we talked about, is shrinking? Do you think that can be realized?
I'm sorry, I think I missed the last part after
I was saying
the fiscal burden.
Yes, so I was saying,
Can you please repeat?
yes, I was saying when the fiscal space is shrinking and debt burdens are increasing, do you think a country can undertake an ambitious project like shifting towards a low carbon economy when there's widespread poverty and on the ground problems, socioeconomic problems?
Mm-hmm. Thank you for your question. Okay, I think we need to recall two things first. First is that climate change or, unsustainable planetary management is something that goes beyond borders or beyond specific institutions or sectors. That is one thing. The second thing is that requires global action. So it doesn't really matter what economy or what country is doing independently. It really matters what we collectively do, because it's something that it requires many different parties and stakeholders in the table, and it requires global action and multilateral action.
Yes.
So yes, if we were to talk about undertaking the burden of the just transition just from individual countries that stand in an equal economic development, social development stances, then yes, the answer would be that this is something really that cannot be done. Yes. But I think that the global community now has really moved forward with these discussions and dialogue on, the support that is needed, on the mobilization of the capital that is needed from developed to the developing parts of the world. So good understanding that support should be there, and I agree with this. But this is not a support without nothing in return for both parties. So even we are talking about a developed country or a developing one, because they both benefit from different outcomes of this energy transition, yes. Whether it's energy security, whether it's improved environmental conditions, whether it's new development perspectives there. Yeah. So I would say in short that support is needed, multilateral action is needed, and the benefits and the outcomes of this can be and will be win-win.
So now I want to shift from the core concepts to a little bit to your role in the global assessment reports like GAO and IPCC. So as a lead author and contributor to these reports, what are some of the major economic dilemmas and trade-offs you've witnessed in terms of achieving climate action and sustainable development and just energy transition, keeping in mind the diverse needs of the global regions?
Thank you. Well, to start with, I think it's are more and more integrated. We really need to understand humans, human actions, the policies, and why some global agreements are not delivering results as fast as we would like to. In terms of economic challenges, I think the first and most important for me is this economic dilemma of balancing urgent emission reduction or climate change action with development needs. And this, of course, is not something that can be answered just with one approach or one magical pill. We still see that there is need to ensure growth in order to alleviate poverty in some parts of the global south, or even in parts in the north. But what we need to understand is that this growth pathway should be decarbonized now. So we cannot continue to deliver growth in the old-fashioned traditional way.
Fossil fuel-based economy.
How do we alleviate poverty? How we decarbonize while at the same time ensuring growth and prosperity for those that are more in need of it? And the second very important economic challenge has to do with reconciliation between global climate action and addressing of local particularities and local realities in terms of environmental ability, in terms of economic ability, in terms of creating jobs and prospects for the local communities.
So how do the IPCC and GAO reports shape and influence economic policy dialogue on climate action and just transition? And what are some of the economic recommendations from these reports that demand urgent attention from developing economies?
Thank you. Well, to start with, these are reports and work that really deliver the latest high-level, impactful scientific findings in simple language to policymakers and to audiences that are interested in this matter. So I think the most important contribution is that we have a stock of scientific knowledge at the service of well-informed policymaking and well-informed societies that decide on their futures. What is novel in the latest approaches and in the latest reports is that now we have discussions on the economic economic policies, on the socioeconomics that need to be integrated into climate change action in order to make meaningful change, in order to see deliverable results. For developing economies, what is really important and is emerging as an urgency from these reports is the need to invest in resilient infrastructure, to make sure that we decarbonize growth, and to make sure that these countries are given a growth alternative that is, as I said already, not following the traditional carbon-intensive path.
Yeah. So now I want to talk a little bit about your leadership with the Global Young Academy and the SDGs group. So as a Global Young Academy leader, in your opinion, what are some of the unique contributions that young scientists who are listening to you and who already take inspiration from you can offer to the just economics of just transition, keeping in mind the intergenerational equity and challenging the traditional economic paradigms?
Thank you. There is something very revitalizing and very energetic in young scientists, because they bring vital, fresh perspectives. They bring a lot of dynamism. They bring new methodologies. They bring new challenging questions, and they bring a lot of willingness and dynamism to combine scientific knowledge with policy making. So I think we need to capitalize on this energy, and we need to untap the potential of young researchers to help us address what is a global challenge and what requires many different perspectives and inputs in order to be addressed. Another very interesting factor finding with when working with young researchers is that they are much more willing now to take interdisciplinary approaches to solving problems. And I think the question of climate change or just energy transition is multidisciplinary and complex by nature.
Absolutely.
So it really needs capacity of young researchers to bridge disciplines, to combine economic, social sciences with technology, with ethics or other natural sciences.
So now I want to talk about a little bit about the future perspectives. So we've talked about the governmental efforts and we've talked about international efforts. What do you think is the crucial role of the private sector and local innovation in driving this just energy transition in the developing economies? And do you think there are any models that are proving to be successful in this regard?
Thank you. I think the role of the private sector is very crucial in this energy transition or in climate change. Although we see worldwide this transformation to be politically driven, and it's mainly governments and decision of governments that drive things, this can be a successful transition only if the private sector and local innovation understand it, engage with it, and believe it, and are very active in this process. So I think it's very, very important to have the private sector and local innovation engaged in the process. Now we need to somehow understand the point of view of the private sector and private investors. Risk, uncertainty, not full understanding or unpredictability are issues that need to be addressed by the public sector in order to facilitate the private sector to jump in meaningful action. Here we have examples, or we have some paradigms that have to do with public-private partnerships, or how the private investors are supported in the initial stages when they enter to support technologies that are not yet very mature. So in a sense, we need the public sector to take the social externalities, the cost of social environmental externalities of an investment, and then to see the private sector where the benefit or the potential lies in these alternatives. So I think public-private communication, partnerships, blended finance, de-risking of the investments up to an extent is something that could really motivate private investors and local innovation to enter this energy transition action.
I've had an amazing conversation with you so far. That brings me to my last question. If you had to identify one most single critical economic policy lever that developing economies should prioritize right now to ensure a truly just and sustainable energy transition, what would it be and why?
In my view, I think the most important policy lever is investing in human capital, because those are the end actors, recipients, catalyzers of this transition. So investing in human capital, skilling, protecting them, so developing social safety nets, having a focus on economic diversification, structural and institutional transformation is something that in my mind can make this just energy transition a great opportunity, historical opportunity for developing countries to catch up and to prosper.
So that brings me to the end of the just energy questions. But there's one question that I want to ask with you personally as a female, not related to just transition and just energy. In your opinion, now that you have this amazing recognition, how tough it is to succeed in a field which is where not a lot of women have succeeded before, and how does it feel to be a trailblazer? I am asking you this because I read when you shared that link that only 3 women were nominated, among which you won. I mean, there are thousands of scientists who are working in this field, but the ratio of women to men is very less. So how tough it is, how thrilling it is, and what are the scope of women who are looking up to you in energy fields and other fields where the male and female ratio is, there's a lot of gap in it. That's a personal
question.
Thank you
so much. Thank you so much for this question, because, this question is going in my mind, and this is something that I wish to discuss and more with my students and audiences. To be honest with you, when I work, I don't really think that I'm a woman, that I should get a special treatment or I get special or obstacles just because I'm a woman. But the reality is that we do face this kind of obstacles.
Absolutely.
We do have this kind.
Absolutely.
So I think for most of women, it's an issue, it's a challenge. Is that we are working and we consider that we work in equal terms and we face equal challenges, but the reality is far away from that. So I would say to my fellow females that what seems to be a weakness in the end of the day may be a huge strength. This empathy, this resilience, this multitasking, this fact that sometimes we don't see barriers in front of us. It's what in the end of the day makes us not just strong, but able to deliver and to support greater actions. So I would say to all of the women out there that yes, there are many obstacles, and some of them, actually many of them, are female specific, or female.
Yeah.
But these can be overcome, and we should acknowledge them, but we should not accept them as a definitive barrier on our way. There's no other way. We have to do it. We have to do it for us. We have to do it for the females that will follow, and we have to do it for all of those female figures before us that really made a long way.
Yes, the ancestors and the predecessors who are looking to you, and then the successors who are looking up to you. So yeah, that's a massive dose of encouragement. Thank you so much for this lovely interview. I loved your answer. This is maybe something that I was just wanting to hear. Thank you so much for taking out time again for us. I've enjoyed our conversation through and through, and I hope that our listeners, and I'll also write this in print version, they also love this conversation. Thank you so much for taking out time. It was a blast to be with you today.
It is my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. You take good care of yourself.